others?
In the past few months, we've seen how transferring a regular, flat game from a great franchise can be a thankless task. Of course, I'm talking about Hitman 3 VR, which failed in every conceivable way. On the other hand, when a development team knows what they're doing, we can get an absolute hit, like Batman Arkham Shadows. However, there are some franchises that seem perfect for VR on paper, but no one has dared to work on them. One of them is the Metro franchise, based on the books Metro 2033 and Metro 2034 by Dmitry Glukhovsky. Metro games have a special place in our hearts, and they are incredibly immersive. Great story, excellent gunplay, and of course, an unparalleled atmosphere. Everything needed to create a hit. That's why all the games in the franchise have been hits so far. When I heard they were working on a Metro VR game, I was thrilled for many reasons. That great, somewhat horror-like atmosphere of tunnels under Moscow after a nuclear apocalypse, the darkness combined with cruel mutants that send chills down your spine, and of course, that feeling that nothing is easy in these games. You are truly just one survivor who has to do everything to survive in this harsh, post-nuclear world. This is a separate story from the classic Metro games, set 10 years after the nuclear catastrophe. You take on the role of Serdar, a doctor in one of the inhabited places in the Metro, who decides to search for a cure for his wife, and later, to find her.
Or you shall not. Sometimes one must get into an utter darkness in order to begin to see.
Although Serdar is the doctor of a settlement, he has little experience wandering the Metro's corridors, but not enough to be characterized as a super soldier, which translates well to you, the player. Unlike most VR games, Serdar has his own voice, and his interactions with NPC characters are excellently done. The fact that he communicates with others gives you a great opportunity to gesture and follow his dialogue. Since this is a VR game, I expected some parts recognizable to the Metro franchise to be cut out, but that was not the case. Right from the beginning, in the introductory moments, I expected Serdar's settlement to be small, just a few rooms due to VR limitations that development teams often exploit. However, that is not the case here. Serdar's settlement looks great, with details at every corner. From the first moment you're in his room, you can admire all the details in the game. Everything is excellently done, even though I've only played the game on the MetaQuest 3 device so far. I was most thrilled when I left the room and started wandering around the settlement. There were 5, if not more, separate rooms that were quite large. Each of them had people talking about their daily lives, events in their settlement, and generally in the Metro. Some conversations were quite interesting to listen to, and that's the charm of every Metro game, giving you that feeling that you are in a world that, despite being hit by a catastrophe, still has a soul. This helped immerse you in these titles, and with the VR version of the game, you literally feel like part of that community.
I think I may have to strike Nata out of my little romantic birthdays calendar, if you know what I mean.
Where people complain about everyday problems, you hear kids talking about what they'll do later, arguments between old soldiers, and plans for wandering the Metro corridors to find supplies. Everything is so alive and, of course, wonderful to see and, most importantly, to be part of. I think this is the first game by Vertigo Games with such a high level of detail. Since I recently played the Arizona Sunshine remake, I didn't expect the rooms and maps to be so detailed, but thank goodness that's the case. The only downside to having so much detail in a VR game is that something has to be sacrificed, and here it's the interaction with objects. Unfortunately, unlike the unmatched Half-Life, Alyx, you can't pick up everything, touch every item, or play with everything in front of you. Interaction is somewhat limited, but you can play the guitar, mess around with plush toys, or try your hand at playing the piano, which is, of course, a lovely touch. The story, as the central point of all Metro games, is also fantastic here. Vertigo Games skillfully took a new character and crafted an excellent, emotional, and strong story around him. It will make you sad at times, irritated, but always intrigued about what's coming next. The best part of the whole story is the dialogues with other characters. No matter how serious the game's tone, there's always a funny moment or a humorous interaction with the characters you meet, which is simply wonderful, not just in this Metro game, but throughout the entire franchise. All the characters you encounter are well written, and the voice acting is superbly done. I didn't expect the characters in a VR game to convey emotions so well in each scene, but combined with the voice acting and graphics, it's executed excellently here. Now, the most important part, the gameplay and its immersion. As I mentioned earlier, the interaction isn't on par, but the gameplay mechanics are more than good. Unlike the recent Vertigo Games titles, this one leans more towards realism. From weapon handling and reloading to managing everything you have, it's all reminiscent of the older Metro games. The best part, as I previously mentioned, is that you are there in the game in VR. Weapon handling can be a challenge, especially when shooting with a Kalashnikov. You can't just aim and hold the trigger to survive. You'll have to carefully control the weapon, because spray and pray won't help here. Every weapon is excellently crafted, but on the other hand, you must always think about what you can use and when, because ammo is quite scarce. You will never have a surplus of ammo. Every bullet counts here. In your backpack, you can carry only 25 pistol rounds and about 100 for the Kalashnikov, which is very little considering you'll never find enough ammo to reach that limit. This increases the survival feel in the game, turning it from a regular title into absolute horror. You must always think about several things, including which conflicts you must and should engage in, and which you can skip. When encountering mutants, you simply have to eliminate them, because as scary as they are in flat games, they are much more dangerous here. Plus, it's genuinely terrifying to fight them in VR. They are fast, agile, and troublesome, and it's very easy to end up reloading the game from the last checkpoint if you're not ready for a confrontation with them. Against other factions you encounter in the game, people from other settlements who are almost always hostile towards you, you have a choice. In Metro Awakening, stealth is very important against humans, so much so that you won't be able to pass certain sections if you decide to engage in gunfights with them. The AI is smart and thorough when it comes to finding you in a specific part of the map. They won't give up easily and will investigate every noise. This is where your advantage comes in, as you have the ability to create noise and diversions in parts of the map where you aren't, leading them to investigate that while giving you enough time to bypass them, or if you wish, decide on a stealth attack. In those moments, I felt like a real special ops agent, crouching around my living room to be as silent as possible while eliminating enemies in my path with a gentle tap on the head. Although you'll encounter many human enemies in certain segments, engaging in firefights isn't really worth it, because none of them carry enough ammo to compensate for what you'll use. When you come across smaller clusters of enemies, that's when you can play the silent special ops role, trying to eliminate them all with precise shots. In those moments, a pistol is a much better choice than a Kalashnikov, and the best option is a crossbow, silent and deadly. Mutants and humans aren't the only dangers in this game. The biggest threat is the world itself. As I mentioned earlier, you'll have a backpack with all your necessities. There's a health syringe that you'll use when needed, but you'll first have to find medicine bottles for it. Of course, there's also the unforgettable gas mask that you'll need to navigate areas contaminated with radiation. And naturally, the filters you'll have to change every 3 minutes. This adds another dimension to the game's gameplay. You have to manage every moment when you're outdoors or in a radiation-filled area. You can't be slow, but you also can't be careless. You need to find a balance in your gameplay, not lingering too long, but always being ultra cautious about what might appear in front of you. VR is a wonderful thing because the immersion is perfect for Metro, so you'll change filters by pulling out your backpack, grabbing one, removing the empty one from your mask, and then putting in a new one. If you spend too much time outside or in the cold, your mask will fog up, so you'll have to wipe it off with your hand. These moments make a VR game a must-have. Small details enrich the gameplay and pull you even deeper into this incredible world. And of course, there's the atmosphere. The metro tunnels aren't a joke. Everything is pitch dark, and you'll have a helmet with a light that you turn on like a headlamp, with a simple but sweet motion. But its battery isn't very strong, so you'll occasionally need to pull out your portable dynamo to recharge the light. You can also use this dynamo to solve certain puzzles and open doors because there's no electricity everywhere, so you have to make connections and figure things out to progress. The biggest problem is when the headlamp weakens and you're in a tricky situation where you hear movement all around but can't see anyone. Then you have to quickly pull out your backpack and recharge the lamp's battery, hoping that something or someone doesn't eat you in the dark. These moments are full of tension, expecting the worst, but that's what makes every moment in this world incredibly interesting. Metro Awakening is an almost perfect VR game set in this universe. It's not without its flaws, but in a time when all VR developers play it safe, it's nice to see someone taking risks and working on a title that's so beloved in the gaming community. If you have a VR headset and love the Metro franchise, or simply enjoy a great VR experience, this is a must-play title for you because it offers absolutely everything a AAA VR title should provide to players.
Bogdan, what the fuck, man? The whole...